What is going on, y'all? Welcome back. This is video number 6 in my series on easing particle animations with JavaScript. That's the title. So in the last video, we actually went over switching our demo.js to the demo.html file so that we could add in our HTML text and just create a script tag for our script so we have a full HTML document that we can work with now in the browser. And then we added this canvas element in here, which now will be the base for all of our animations, like our particles that we make. And we just added a background blue temporarily so that when we jump over to our browser, we see that we have our blue background. That's where our canvas is on the screen right now. So the next piece that we're going to be working on in this, because we added one function already, the create. And what I did now is I did the same thing as I did on the create, where I pasted in the create function and then kind of went over each line. I did the same thing with this create emitter function, because that's the function we're going to be building in this video. So as you can see, I pasted in the function from my script, and now I have this empty one that I'm going to be rewriting what we wrote. And I forgot to add one thing to our base create emitter function in here, and that's just to add a preferences here. And I'm just going to do that quick so we can see what the final thing looks like here. So now what we'll do is we'll go ahead and write that in here to our new create emitter function. And now the preferences variable is always going to be an object that we pass in with property names related to specific things that you can see actually listed there. So all those variables are all taking properties that we pass in. The first thing we want to do is we want to say variable p equals preferences or an empty object. And the reason we do an empty object is because if you don't pass in a preferences, then all of those variables will be undefined and it will kind of break what we have going on. So what this allows us to do is basically call this function without passing in anything, and it wouldn't error still, because we would just make an empty object, and then if those properties don't exist, then it wouldn't error, it would just continue. So the next piece is we'll define a variable POS. Now the POS variable is going to be the actual position of the emitter, like where it's going to start the particles. So in this case, this will be defined as an X and a Y position. And those will actually be set to the position that we pass in. We always assume that we're going to be passing in a position for the emitter, because why would you create one if you're not going to give it a location? So we immediately set those equal to the position Y and position X. And then the next piece is a little different than the normal particle effect, because normal particle effects you kind of just have particles shooting out and they have like velocity and acceleration, but I built mine a little bit different because that didn't give me the effect I wanted. Because the effect I want is for one particle to go on a random path and then hit a specific location, which building a regular particle effect with easing and acceleration doesn't go to a specific spot. It will just kind of, you can send it that way, but it will never actually fully go that way. What this does is destination basically just gives it the point at which it needs to end at. What we do is that's also an X and a Y, and that would be something that we pass in too as an object with an X. So we say p.destination.x, and then Y we'll do p.destination.y. And then the next piece is OPD, and that's just for on particle death. And basically what that's going to do is going to call a function that we pass in every time a particle dies. And the reason we do that is because if you'll see in the game, every time a particle hits the top, it counts up on the meter. So we have the particles on death counting up on that thing. So we want to just make sure that we are passing in a function. So we'll just say on particle death, or just default it to an empty function, because we don't want, just in case you don't want anything to call when the particle ends, then you just pass in that empty function and you don't have to worry about it. The next variable is OED, which is on emitter depth. So when the emitter actually finishes, as in all the particles have been emitted and it's finished. So we'll do OED, and we'll just set that equal to on emitter depth, or default it to an empty function. So then the next piece is the sample amount, which is essentially how many, I believe it's just how many, not how many particles necessarily, but how many points we want. So like if I collected 100 currency in my game and I pass that 100 in as the sample amount. So anyways, just the sample amount will either be what you passed in or just default to 1. And then COL is just the color that we want to make those particles. So we'll just do that or default it to white. And now the last two lines here are going to be new data variables that I will add right now. So we have the emitters, which is an empty array, and then we have looping, which is set to false by default. And I will explain what looping does later, but for now, the next piece in here, we're just going to say data.emitters.push. And what this is going to do is create a new emitter like we talked about for the constructor. So that's what this is here, but we haven't defined it yet with any properties or anything. So I'm just going to write in, well, I'll put this stuff in here for now. So I will just copy these and put them in there, even though it doesn't take any parameters yet, but we will be adding that stuff shortly. So, and then the last piece we want to do is just set looping to true. Alright guys, well that will wrap up video number 6. So I hope you guys are enjoying this series so far. It's still going to be a couple of videos before we actually are going to see particles, because we have to write a bunch more functions, and I think doing like one function a video is kind of a good pace. So I'll continue to do it that way. If you guys have other suggestions or comments, leave them below. Make sure to subscribe, like the video, and I will see you guys in number 7. Peace.